It's the Awake Space Astrology Podcast, and I'm Laurie Rivers with you, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out in the world. And if you live in a large part of the United States, I hope you're not driving to work while you listen to this. If you're frozen in, I hope you get to stay home. I hope you still have power and water. I hope you are at least able to have some cocoa or some home brewed coffee. I'm still brewing my coffee at home. I've got some lovely roasts that I've picked up. I've gotten back to enjoying picking out my coffee beans. Or maybe you're just having a cup of tea or sipping on some not frozen water. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're warm and cozy, safe and dry. And if not, I hope you're getting the hell out of wherever you are, if you can. I've been snowed in, I've been frozen in before, so my sympathies. It's cold in Southern California, but I'm not going to complain. I've lived through a hard winter or three. Well, it's a wild week, my friends. You got to get your surfboard. You've got to get the bungee cord attached because there's some cosmic tsunamis this week as we enter the final chapter of Pluto in Capricorn, but it isn't the end of the book just yet. Remember, we'll have the epilogue September 1st through November 19th. So it's a wild week because we come to the close, and the astrology is just like every single day this week from the 15th in through the 21st. It's just really wild. And so again, in the first segment, I give a very soothing message, a message about how to work with the energy. What is the point of being human and remembering that and being as present as possible. In the next segment, after I do talk about the week's astrology, we go lunation by lunation. I talk about what's in the headlines as per what I wrote in the astrology magazine for January. Okay, the astrology magazine comes to patrons every single month. It's where the horoscopes are. It's where I do the in the headlines for the mundane astrology. And we have articles. In fact, we're working on February right now. For February, I'm writing out some of that Pluto Mars cycle information that I did as a drop on Patreon. If you're not sure what Patreon is, you can go to patreon.com/the Awake Space, and that is where I offer the magazine crunch reports, where I give astrology alerts, especially on some tricky lunations. I know I'm definitely getting out the Aries crunch report this week. We have Planet of the Month Club this year. We're going through the houses. We just finished up the first house workshop, but we'll have office hours later in the month. Super exciting stuff in the Patreon, and patrons sponsor the podcast. Without patrons, there's no podcast, especially since Spotify for Podcasters is killing their ambassador ads program. I talk a little bit about that in our patron shout out segment. And then I go through the Pluto through your houses and how you can use that Pluto and Aquarius energy to your benefit. If you want to know more and go deeper, you can check out the Pluto and You recording of the seminar that I did a little while ago. And that recording is up in the Patreon. On my Snip feed. Or no, in my Patreon. I can't remember. It's in my Patreon. I'm getting old. All right. It's time for us to cozy up, get a cozy blankie on, drink some cocoa, get ready to hear a story. And remember, we're in this together, guys. Everybody's going through it. There isn't anybody who isn't tired. There isn't anybody who hasn't struggled or suffered. We've all been through it. So take it easy on yourself. Take it easy on your neighbor. Let's just chill out and make it through the week together. And it doesn't have to be all bad. We can definitely measure our growth. We can definitely find inspiration. So have some cookies with me because I've got cookie dough and I know how to use it. All right, let's find out what this week is bringing and what you can do to make it through in some really powerful ways. All right, guys, I'm not going to lie. It's probably going to be a pretty choppy week. And when I say choppy, I'm talking about the cosmic tide. We're building to some big change, and it's not the finale just yet. That happens September through November 19th, September 1st through November 19th of 2024. But we are in the final act this week of Pluto in Capricorn. Okay. And it's volatile, folks, and it's going to feel like a lot of pressure. And you might be feeling that through the weather you're experiencing. You might be feeling that through interpersonal relationships. You might be feeling that at work. You might be feeling the squeeze. And it doesn't matter what your sun sign is. We're all feeling this. We have all 12 signs in our chart. All 12. And we interact with the world in our own particular way. And I've thought a lot about this particular episode because there's going to be a lot going on in the world. I know there's already a lot going on into the world, but we begin a new chapter. And a lot of times when we say we begin a new chapter, people think, oh, it's going to be better. And the thing of it is we are undoing not just 100 years or 200 years. We're undoing thousands of years of imbalance. And that's why it seems like it's some kind of, Marvel or DC movie where the bad guys are cartoonish and the good guys seem almost superhuman. And yet all of us are very human. That's why I've been saying humanize people. Stop objectifying people. Stop turning them into cardboard cutouts. They're human beings who get up every single day, do the same things you do, whether it's have a cup of coffee, say hello to a loved one, and yeah, even the bad guys have loved ones. It's more than white hat and black hat, good and bad, good and evil, although it appears that to be very, very clear right now, right? It does. When we look at the imbalances, whether it is through climate change, and many of you listening are directly impacted by that, whether it's my listeners in the Indian Ocean, in Mauritius, in the Seychelles, in the Maldives, facing the direct impact of climate change with horrendous weather. Or it's my listeners in the United States dealing with abject freezing cold weather and poor infrastructure that hasn't been upkept since really the 60s. We've done piecemeal projects and decided to privatize everything where the bottom line is what makes the decisions instead of the common good. And I think of the old people when I was young, the people who so loved technology because their thought was this was going to make our lives better. This was going to improve our qualities of life. We wouldn't have to wash clothes with a washboard anymore until we didn't have wrinkles on our knuckles, that they'd be worn smooth. And maybe you've known somebody who had that, and if you're under 50, you probably don't remember anybody with those smooth knuckles if you were born in the United States or Canada or Western Europe. But washboards are hell on your hands. I remember feeling my great-grandmothers and how smooth they were. We were supposed to have technology for the betterment of humanity.
And it has not been used that way most of the time. Some of it has. We're better able to reach out to one another and make connections with people from different cultures who speak different languages, eat different food, and believe different things than us. And that's something people really didn't have globally in the past, although humans did a lot more international trade than was previously imagined, if you stay up with archaeology. But it took months or years for messages to get through. I'm thinking about this week, and you might be like, where's the astrology? And it's in the tone of my voice. It's going to be a crunchy week, my friends. We're going to see infrastructure failures. We're going to see border conflicts spark into wars. We're seeing a global conflict, and yet notice I'm refraining from a World War III moniker, because when you say that, people imagine a nuclear post-apocalyptic experience. At least if you're a Gen Xer. But we will see things start to fracture old alliances, old agreements start to flounder and fumble, while those that think they can hold on to power, very foolishly, given the astrology, continue to attempt to wrest control from the populace. And yet the population isn't quite ready. We haven't quite learned to listen to one another. We haven't learned to decondition ourselves to stop needing that great one, that leader, that chosen person, the golden person, the one who has all the knowledge and the wisdom to lead us. We think we don't have power. We give our power away with great frequency. And with Pluto on the precipice of change into Aquarius, people will have to start learning very quickly how much power they do possess. Lucky for us, it's going to be a 20-year transit after November 19th. But we get a practice run from January 20th until September 1st of 2024. It's not just a singular event. It's like the ringing of a gong. But what happens before Pluto ingresses into Aquarius is it exits Capricorn. And the two are not the same thing. Not at all. It's a very different energy. I've spent many hours poring over charts before I did this podcast, because I want to give you as much hope and inspiration as I can. It's easy to lean in to the chaos. It's easy to lean into the heartbreak. It's easy to lean in to the inhumanity that is happening in more than one place in this world. And so I ask us all to take a deep breath and remember there's millions of people standing up to do the right thing. Millions of people helping a neighbor. Millions of people comforting and giving solace to those who are grieving. Millions of people who are in service in some way, helping and trying to do the best they can. And that might be you. I hope it is. We have an opportunity to master ourselves a little bit more this week. And mastery isn't a path for perfection. Mastery is tuning ourselves, calibrating ourselves, and helping ourself connect to our own human experience. And so often we lean into the struggle and the pain. Chapters are closing with Pluto in Capricorn at the 29th degree. Chapters that may have started long before Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008. Chapters are closing so a new chapter can begin. And if we hold on to the struggle and the pain and the remorse and the regret and the worry and the doubt, the horror, we rob ourselves of an essential human experience, which those are a part of. And I'm going to ask you to do some very simple things this week. I'm going to ask you to experience being alive. I think of a client who came to me at the beginning of 2023 with a terminal diagnosis, a rather serious one. And they had had a terminal diagnosis before in the past that they beat. And 5 years later, the illness had resurfaced. And they said that they wanted to know what they could do and if there was any opportunity for them, and if the doctor was right in their prognosis of the time they had left. This person had lived a full life. They were a person of faith and spiritual intent, and they do great service. And I thought about it for a minute as I scoured their chart and I looked at the timing. And I checked in with my own guidance for the right words to speak. I don't take that kind of reading very lightly. And if you've worked with me at all, you know I care deeply about ethics. And the words that came out of my mouth brought tears to my eyes. And it was, I could give you an end date. It's unethical. But you've lived a full life, and I could. But instead, when I look at your chart, I see so much potential for so much more. What if you planned on living? What would that look like and feel like? What if we were to plan forward so you could live each moment vibrantly, however much time you have left? That person's still alive. The doctors had only given them months to live. We don't always have the answer to our end date, and we often spend time worrying about it, concerned about it, instead of understanding it is inevitable at some point. We often are overly concerned with other people in our life, whether they're suffering or struggling, forgetting that they have their own path, their own walk, their own journey, their own human experience. And as we go through this week, and we may be witnesses to things that further mortify and horrify us. We could see tremendous weather globally. We could see people en masse in peril, just as we have been witnessing. That could intensify. We could see the most vulnerable of us placed in positions of social sacrifice. And it will be easy to revel in the madness of it all. It'll be easy to sink into a space of despair if we allow it. And if we do that, we have succumbed to a weapon of control. I'm not saying to dance in the streets and have joy as we move forward, but I am asking us all to take a moment and feel the sun on our face, even in the cold, to watch ice crystals form on a window with wonder, to feel a warm mug of cocoa and smell the aroma, or coffee or tea or matcha, or taste the sweetness of water as we sip it. To enjoy the sensation of getting into warm clothes and fluffy socks, or how it feels to snuggle into bed and rest our head on a pillow, to really feel the sensations, to listen to a child's laughter, a giggle, an intake of breath as they watch a rainbow move through a prism. We waste a lot of time thinking about what could have been, what might have been. We waste a lot of time worrying about what other people think of us and our employment, our titles, our social status. When every single human being is just born, lives a life, and expires, truly. And for all the names of history that we have learned, there are millions we have not. Revel in the smell of your breakfast, if you are so lucky to have one. Revel in the texture of your clothes. Enjoy the sensation of the water on your hands as you wash them. Or feel the pelting of the shower as you rinse yourself, if you are so lucky to have one. Really feel the hug when you're grabbed around the waist by a child, or your loved one squeezes your hand or your arm in loving gesture, or when your fur baby jumps up on your lap and demands a cuddle, even at the most inopportune time. This week, we want to plan on living. This week, we want to lean into the rawness of life and feel all of the sensations. Because Pluto exiting Capricorn, well, it will be conjunct the sun, and that is a very powerful energy. The sun will conjunct with Pluto and exit Capricorn first, igniting us and allowing us to move into a new reality. How that reality shapes is truly up to us, and you cannot keep one foot in the past and put another foot in the future and be anything other than split down the middle. We have an opportunity before us, each one of us, to remember why we're here. And we're not here to lead an army. We're not here to be a CEO. We're not here to be a master gardener. We're not here to be a saint. We're not here to be the next Mr. Rogers. We are here to be ourselves, having a human experience in all the range of emotions and textures and smells and grit and comfort and ease. Have you ever been with somebody and made cookies? The fun in the kitchen, the coziness in the moment, or wash dishes together while somebody else dried. Those mundane moments are magical. They're where we form connection. They're where we have the most mundane experiences, and yet those are the most magical. They are so much more magical than the big phenomena that is there to catch your attention for a moment, to remind you that there is more to our existence than the pettiness and the power struggles and the arguments and the who's right, who's wrong, who's morally superior, who's inferior, who's the sinner, who's the saint. We are here to live in the present moment and milk it for all it is worth. I'm not saying shy away from reality. I'm saying you have a moment to appreciate the reality you are in, regardless of circumstances. Even if you're grieving. Because if we grieve deeply, it means we have loved. This is how I'm starting off the podcast this week, and I'm doing it here because I'm going to go through the astrology of the week in the next segment, and it might be disconcerting for some of you. I'm never here to scare you. I'm here to prepare you. Be that giving you a heads up so you can get supplies or have your house in order, or to just emotionally prepare you for a crunchy week. And I can tell you, we have another cosmic tsunami on the way. And you can brace yourself for the worst of it, or you can embrace the present moment and ride the cosmic tide. It's up to each one of you to choose how you meet each moment. And even if you fall off your cosmic surfboard, you've got a bungee, you can get back on. You're not going to wipe out permanently. Regardless of what happens this week in our personal lives, in our communities, in our internet communities, in our social interactions, at our jobs, in our world, each of us has a chance to meet the moment and embrace it. But in order to do that, each one of us has to release the fear of the future, release the resentment from the past. Doesn't mean you give anybody a pass. It isn't about forgiveness. But you have to step bravely into a future version of yourself. And in order to do that, you need to know who they are. Take time to yourself this week if you can. Maybe sit in your car an extra 5 minutes. Stop worrying about the world for a moment and listen to the sound of the birds, the whistling of the wind, the creaking of a tree branch. Find the buzz in the stillness. And then ask yourself a question. Who can I be in this moment? How can I plan on living? That is how you alchemize and transform through this cosmic tide. All right. In the next segment, I'm going to talk about the astrology of the week. And I want you to remember this part. Be present. Because you shouldn't be scared. Just aware. Well, you know, it's going to be some massive cosmic waves, a rather eventful cosmic tsunami when I give you the spiel like I did at the top of the show, but I want you guys to be prepared. And so often people look for the answers outside of themselves, whether it's through a deity or a rock or what have you. And they forget they have the power. And my job is to empower you. And I did that segment first because it's a wild week on the planet and historic. I know, we're all tired of living in historic times, but technically our entire lives have been historic times because history is the story of the past. And even though we look at history as the big wars, the big conflicts, the disasters, etc., history really is the story of the past. And isn't it amazing that they have us focus only on quote-unquote the big stuff, and we consider the big stuff the destructive stuff, but we don't talk about the day-to-day. We are negligent in looking at the day-to-day. And that's a mistake. The day-to-day is where we're living. It's the present moment. So, if you get worried easily, I want you to fast forward to the next segment where I talk about what we can do with the Pluto and Aquarius energy, regardless of the placements in your chart. And if you don't freak out, that's cool. Let's go through the astrology of the week. So we start Monday, the 15th, out with the moon in Pisces, and it's approaching Neptune throughout the day. I think we're going to see, more precip. I think we're going to see, obviously more weather, some high tides, some real high tides. And probably see some issues with shipping, probably more stuff going down in the Middle East, including the Suez Canal, Indian Ocean, or the Red Sea may see more action, and the Persian Gulf might see more action. I don't think things expand on Monday during the day, but I could be wrong about that. We may hear more about gas and petroleum, and we could hear about chemical factories. So when I pull up the Awake Space Astrology magazine available on Patreon, what I had in the headlines, and it's funny because I started reanalyzing all the charts. And I was like, wait, I've done this. Let's go back to the headlines. So in the headlines section of the magazine for January 13th through the 15th, let's see, COVID and other viruses in the headlines. Could see new mask mandates, and we did. No lockdowns. Dams breach, severe weather, big rain, any kind of precipitation, espionage, flooding, sensitive information is leaked, or a whistleblower speaks out, church leaders exposed, toxic waste, poison water supply issues, sewage, sewers damaged, or issues with spills, banking, private equity, or investment defaults,
Environmental regulations discussed pharmaceuticals, breakthroughs in treatments, healthcare or hospitals under stress, staffing crises, poisoning, poison darts, bad drugs, something laced, drug cartels, sleeper cells revealed, or people accused of spying and or charged with crimes, shipping, boating accidents, naval skirmishes, and that was for the moon in Pisces. We'll see the moon in Pisces squaring off with Venus later in the day on Monday. I'm going to say be careful on your commutes. I know it's cold for a lot of you, so, if you can take the time off, please do. Don't drive on icy, slick roads or try to make it in terrible conditions if you can avoid it. Be careful. Okay. I don't think that weather's going to get better quick. Okay. I think we may see an escalation of for sorts. Now, later on the 15th, and I mean late on the 15th, around about 8:45, 8:50 p.m. Pacific. So that's like 11:45-ish p.m. Eastern time. And for those of you not in the United States, right now, the West Coast where I am, and that's the time zone I use, is -8 GMT. All right, -8 GMT. All right, so what I think is going to happen when the moon ingresses into Aries, because it'll be square Mercury in Capricorn, we're going to see some leaders speak very poorly, make some really bad statements. I think we could definitely see escalation in violence. I don't think we're going to see anything relent in Gaza. I don't. I know all of you want it to get better. I don't think it will. Not in the short term. So just keep praying. Just keep praying. And keep the pressure on. If you have the ability to get a hold of elected officials, keep doing it. Keep getting a hold of the political parties. Okay? Keep doing it. Don't relent. Don't stop. Okay? We're going to see issues in Southeast Asia, South China Sea. Could be conflict. We could see China escalate with the Philippines. We could see aggression towards Taiwan. We could see anywhere there's a border conflict. We'll see it escalate. The Middle East conflict could expand on the 18th. I have that very specifically in the magazine. Big accidents and travel delays, infrastructure damage, and I'm saying massive. We could see collapsed buildings. We could see roads go. This is all over the United States, all over the globe. This could be due to the weather. This could be due to conflict and wars that includes Ukraine. We could see issues in the Balkans. The Balkans are destabilizing. That makes me nervous as a political analyst. It's like, Balkans, knock it off. We've got enough going on. Stabilize. Okay? If you're in the Balkans, my heart is with you, and I'm praying for stabilization. This could also include some seismic activity, geothermal activity. Obviously, the volcano in Iceland is continuing to erupt and is doing some new stuff. Attempted coups, insurrections, and political violence are possible. This is global. That would be through the 15th through the 18th. A world leader could be assassinated or deposed, health crisis, taken out of commission. And this could be CEOs, elected officials, people of note, including some major celebrities. I see it more as a leader. I don't really see celebrities as leaders, but some people do.
Potential terrorist attack or threat in Western Europe or North America, or one is claimed to be prevented. Okay. All right. I'm going to just say it would not be a huge surprise, and it could be domestic. Okay. It's political. Okay. It's political. And if you live in Nebraska or Oklahoma or Ohio or Idaho or Wyoming, it's probably not where you live, okay? It's probably a major city. Food crisis causes conflict between nations or within public market spaces. This would be more likely in the developing world or in regions where there's fights over resources. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Explosions, bombings, and acts of terrorism, or an increase in military action, public fights over food, issues over land, water, and mineral rights. That all it gets exacerbated. And potential volcanic eruptions and seismic activity over a 6.0 likely in any active seismic zone. So if you live in an active seismic zone, always have your stuff together. Always be ready. Always have some supplies on hand. All right. It's gonna be wild. So why am I saying all of that? Why am I saying we can expect this while the moon is in Aries? Well, that's because from the moment the moon ingresses into Aries, late on the 15th, it's square Mercury. So that's some communication snafus. That's certainly transportation accidents. This, I think, might be rail or cars or trucks. And then... if you ever watch Dude, Where's My Car? And then on the 16th in the morning, we'll have Mars starting, or the moon starting to make a square with Mars. That's very explosive energy. We still have Venus squaring off with Neptune, and there's going to be all kinds of information leaks, issues with alliances. You know, think NATO, UN, World Bank, World Health Organization. All of the international organizations are going to be under strain. At 11 a.m. Pacific, I think, is when we're more likely to see like a big event. That could be mass violence. This could be public violence. It could also be an issue with assassination attempts. That was one of the things I was saying. This could also be like toxins in water or air. Let's see. January 17th. We have the moon conjunct the node. A moon in Aries conjunct the north node in Aries. And it begins its square with the sun. It begins its square with the sun. It's pretty volatile. That would be at 6 a.m. on January 17th Pacific time. That's 9 a.m. Eastern. And as we go throughout the 17th, things continue to get crunchy as the moon, especially around 5 p.m. Pacific, that's 8 p.m. Eastern, the moon squares off with the sun and Pluto much more tightly. So things will just continue to kind of heat up. We can see stuff going on in South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, Chile. And probably more likely in South Africa, Namibia, Angola, all those places. Definitely need to keep our eye out on New Zealand. New Zealand may be pretty hot seismically. You could see some stuff going on maybe in Tonga with volcanoes or in that area.
And then January 18th, and this could be like even like January 18th Pacific midnight, or within 2 hours either way, but I would say 2 hours before. So like 10 p.m. Pacific on the 17th, which is like 1 in the morning Eastern. We have the moon in Aries squaring off with Pluto and Capricorn, and exactly at 12 a.m. Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. I think this could be something to do in the Middle East. I think we might see an expansion. I think the United States is very much trying to draw various nations into a conflict. It's been very, very clear. I know we keep claiming everybody else is doing it, but it's very clear that we're starting stuff with the intent to finish stuff. So I expect some kind of conflict as the moon in Aries gets ready to move into Taurus. And that happens early in the morning of the 18th. What do we expect to see in the headlines January 18th through the 20th? Financial failures and market volatility. We could see the markets all over the place. This includes crypto. We could see things like swing up and then crash, like in profit taking. So a lot of times people lay traps, so they'll like bump the value up and then crash it to take a profit. We could see currency devaluations. We could see trade agreements end or be broken or have sanctions. And this anywhere. This is global. Issues with food supply and or processing plants, recall on food products, grain, vegetables, and meat. Global financial crisis, supply chain disruption. This could be due to issues with the Suez Canal. This could be issues with the Strait of Taiwan. It could be a million different things. But those are my best guesses. Satellite failures, crashes, issues with spacecraft and space stations. We could see a solar flare interrupt satellite communication. We could see, no, I do not see the internet going down completely, but we could see things to do with hacking. We could see explosions, demolitions go wrong, okay, or a missile failure, things like that causes a big accident. We could see trucking accidents continue. Explosions at manufacturing or food processing plants. This could be global. This could be chemical factories. Could be a power plant. Huge weather issues, lightning, hail, tornadoes, sandstorms, or torrential rain. Commercial real estate plunges, and this is global. Okay, I've had my eye on China for quite a while, but this could also be in Europe, Great Britain, United States, Canada, Japan. Issues with cattle, dairy farms, meat packing plants, and with that bad weather in the plains in cattle country in Texas, I think we may see meat prices go up because I think we're going to have some real hard times for ranchers. Communications failures, breaks in cell service, large network outages. Now, this could be weather related, folks. But we could also see cybersecurity breaches increase, data breaches, DNS server attacks, malware, ransomware, and Trump gets some bad news. Biden probably gets some bad news too. Nobody is on our good list. They're all on the naughty list. I don't even want to talk about the foreign policy at this point. It's been bad for so long. Just so long. And then On the 20th through the 22nd, we have the moon in Gemini. Now, this is really fascinating to me, folks. The moon ingresses into Gemini just before the moon the sun exits Capricorn. Okay. So that will happen. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's another biggie. Before we talk about the moon exiting Gemini, one of the reasons I think we're going to have so many big events is the moon in Taurus, right before it exits Taurus, is, of course, in a trine with Pluto, from Taurus to Capricorn. And remember, trines are considered benefic traditionally. I think it's pretty reductionist. It's unrestricted energy. I think we'll see a big earthquake, or we'll see a volcano really have at it. At least some kind of seismic activity. Where do I think that might happen? It's probably more like Iceland, but it could be Alaska. It could be Japan. It's in the northern hemisphere. So north of the equator, and again, I think it's stuff to do with Iceland, but it could be the mid-Atlantic. Well, not the mid, that's south. Up in the Bering Strait, off the Alaskan coast. Could be onshore though. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, up above the equator, pretty high up, be kind of ready. I think it could be in Asia though as well. So Japan, Taiwan, it could also be political action. So that's at I've got that for 5:14 through 5:30 a.m. It could happen before that by a couple of hours, or an hour or two after. Oh Lord, own the ums. So then at around 6:15 a.m., 6:10 a.m., the moon enters Gemini. Well, yeah, because at 6:25 a.m., the sun ingresses into Aquarius. Pluto is at 29:59 of Capricorn. This could just be extreme. I think we could see massive windstorms. Again, because the sun and moon are trine, we could see issues with high-speed rail, air accidents. I mean, there could be some good stuff. On a personal level, definitely great stuff. On a world level, I think this has to do with climate change. I think we could see a lot of things. So when I look from January 20th to the 22nd, these are what I wrote for in the headlines for the magazine that came out at the first of the year. Hurricane force winds, intense rain, potential flooding, tornadoes, waterspouts, early monsoon rains for the places that get monsoons. This could be anywhere in the Indian Ocean, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. We could see mud flows, strange tides, issues with water supplies, terrorist attacks, bombings, political violence in general. This is global. A mass casualty event of some kind in more than one place. So this, beyond what you think is obvious, this would be something new. Okay, this isn't, oh, well, yeah, they're bombing the hell out of Gaza and murdering people. Yes, that's not what I meant by that. I'm talking about, it could be stabbings. It could be missiles. We will see issues with missiles for sure. This could be a missile test gone wrong. This could be a purposeful missile attack kind of like what we've done with Yemen. We might see more. This could involve Iran. This could be issues between Russia and Ukraine. There could be issues with Turkey, and not us and Turkey yet. I definitely think we're going to see NATO have some big issues soon. But yeah, we could see issues with power plants, potential radiation leaks, and chemical spills. I've not taken my eye off that nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Okay. I have not. I think it's been leaking. Okay. I just do. Which is not great for the environment or people. But to me, people and the environment are kind of one and the same. I don't see us as separate from the planet. We could see government systems, computer systems be down. This could be global. We may hear about government agencies getting hacked, or it could be weather issues. It could be power is out. There's a lot that could happen. Solar flare could disrupt communication, most likely radio waves and some internet. Potential seismic activity above a 6.0 in any active region, and I'll talk about potential dates for that. I gotta check stuff here. Ooh, I gotta run through this a little quicker, or I'm gonna run out of time on this segment. We can see data leaks, sensitive materials made public, hostage situation, and or blackmail comes to light. And this would be a new thing. Okay. Let's see. Tensions escalate in all borders disputes. Conflict expands in the Middle East. U.S. discusses draft. Public anti-war protests increase. Could see air traffic control issues, helicopter accident, or other kinds of crashes, planes, trains, car pileups. We could see a potential school shooting. All transits are global. When it comes to seismic activity, this could actually be, let me get to it. Let's see. This could actually be, it could be like in Turkey, Iran. We could see something. Let me get to the 21st. Pluto will ingress into Aquarius at around 6, not quite 6 a.m. Pacific. It'd be like 5:50, and it'll be like, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong chart. So Pluto's at 0 degrees. Starts on the 20th. It will still be conjunct the sun, although it's a separating conjunction, and the moon in Gemini is in a sextile with the North Node and moving into an opposition with Venus. It's volatile, guys. It's a volatile time. We could see something in New Zealand, Australia, South Pacific. We see it off the coast of South America, Central America, North America. I'm not seeing any one specific event in that chart. I just see global instability. Now, on a personal level, things can be very different, and we're going to talk about that after some patron shout-outs. Okay, after some patrons shout-outs. So, shake it out. Let's thank the patrons, because without patrons, this podcast doesn't happen. All right, you heard the music. It's that time again. It is time for patron shoutouts.
Once again, I want to thank all of our patrons at the Awake Space. Without you, there is no podcast. There is no me. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you've been enjoying the ambassador ad for Spotify for Podcasters. Unfortunately, after January 2024, they have canceled it. And they've gone to wanting us to do automated ads, but we don't get to pick who's advertising on the podcast with that. And I'm like, I'm not cool with Walmart. I'm not cool with Target. I don't want those people advertising on my podcast. So back again with which honestly I made just enough money to like do some TikTok promotions. That's it. I didn't make very much money on that ad at all. So it's not like it's a revenue loss. I was mostly doing it to inspire people to do their podcasts. And so many of our patrons have. I'm really excited about that. So I thought, well, there's other ways to inspire people. That got the ball rolling. So coming up in the future, I'm going to do a couple of free classes. And patrons, of course, will get first dibs on the seats. So I'm going to do another just very basic astrology introduction. So if you're new to astrology and you want to understand things a little bit, maybe have a little Q&A with me on basic astrology. Like, I don't know how to find this in my chart. Not what does this mean? What is this aspect? No cheating. But just an introduction to the natal chart, just understanding what it is. And then I'll do for people who want to start a Patreon, I'll do a free class. Okay. We'll do just an introduction. What is Patreon? What do you do to be successful having a Patreon? Just a little overview, a little survey. And then I thought I'd do one on, how do you start a podcast, right? How do you start a podcast? Do you need a Gemini Venus to have one? The answer would be no. All right, let's give some shout outs to my peeps. We've got Mandy, Gabby, Joy Through the Challenges, Joy Through Challenges. Great username. Alexandra, April, Regina, Kat, Ashley, Adrian, Riva, Alexander, Kat, Jennifer, Tam, Lauren, Ryan, Polyglot, Therese, Joni, Raquel, Steph, Alexandra, Elizabeth, Zolma, Ashley, and Kim. Welcome. Good to have you here. Thank you so much. And if you haven't joined us in the Discord, make sure that you do. We've been having some great conversations. And the astrology meme channel and the comedy channel are some of my favorites to tune in. You guys crack me up every day. But we stay up on current events. We've got resources. Our preparation thread is full of wonderful resources and lots of helpful people, whether you're just getting started with food preservation, like canning or making your own home cleaners, your household cleaners. I can talk. Any of that kind of thing. It's not like freaky prepper stuff. It's just like, hey, we were going to have supply chain issues. There's ways to do things that are healthier too. And growing your own food is a good thing. So if you want to check that out, you can head over to the Patreon. Any paid member level gets you into the Discord. And we look forward to having you. If you're in the Discord and you haven't said hi, come in to say hi. All right. Believe it or not, people are super friendly. All right. Okay, let's talk about Pluto in Aquarius and what we can do with that energy starting on the 20th. Well, I can tell you what I'm going to do when Pluto gets into Aquarius. I'm going to dance. I'm going to sing. I'm going to do the happy dance. It has just been a slog recently.
Oh man, I look forward to that energy lightening up a little bit. So it's not just you, my friends, it's everybody. We're all feeling it. It's we've got to let go of our social conditioning if we can, like every little bit that we can recognize and become conscious of. We don't have to get rid of all of it. That would be impossible. We don't have enough time, we don't. It was a 16-year transit. We did a lot of work. And the more you did it consciously, the better. But even if you've only quote unquote woken up in the last couple of years, don't worry. You were doing the work. You just did it subconsciously. There's so much judgment, right? Just do it the right way. Belong to the right group. It's amazing. You can tell somebody's super conscious when, like, kind of the less they care about other people's business at the petty level. There's a big difference between observing egregious things happening in the world and saying, hey, that isn't correct. And somebody going, well, you're the wrong kind of leftist, or you're not the right kind of astrologer, or I will defend astrology itself. Okay. And I'll call out people posing as astrologers who aren't. Not that much anymore, just because I decided, really, is that a way I want to spend my energy, or do I just want to share what I know based off my study and experience, and people can decide for themselves. Like many of you, I was raised to be a good person and try to rescue people from themselves, and that's a fool's errand. So, but it always gets me when people are like, you're the wrong kind of this, and don't you dare call yourself that, and blah, blah, blah. I tell you, it's frustrating, isn't it? So it's going to be really tempting to point fingers this week. And I'm not saying don't stand up for what's right. If marginalized people and disadvantaged people are being harmed, of course stand up. That's the right thing to do. It is. But careful with being a crusader rabbit. Okay? Because you might be putting a lot of energy into a cause and neglecting making necessary and maybe radical changes within. Okay, sometimes we get our attention drawn into something in a cause, and again, it's one thing if you're taking action and you're getting hold of your politicians, calling your city council members, going to library board meetings or school board meetings. If you're getting involved and you're putting your energy that way, great. But if you're just screaming on social media, do you really think you're being utterly effective? There's a difference between giving people the mic, sharing their videos up, lifting them up, and needing to take the spotlight as an avenger of an issue. So keep that in mind. The one thing I'm worried about with Pluto moving into Aquarius is like forced hegemony or forced conformity. That's kind of the downside of Pluto in Aquarius. The upside is communication, collaboration, innovation, and I think we'll see some of that and plenty of that. I don't know that we'll see it on the 20th, though. I wish. No. But I do think we'll all see a little bit more energy. The energy is going to change. The quality will change, and you will feel it. Tune into it. It's going to change from being super heavy more into like clear crystal. Like think of a real sharp, clear crystal. Not selenite, but definitely more of a quartz, or even let's say it's a clear obsidian. Okay, like glass. Laser clear. That kind of focus is the energy of Aquarius. And so the energy changes, my friends. What can you do on a personal level? Well, if this is coming into your first house, even if you don't have placements there, then you are deconstructing social, cultural conditioning and And Saturn already prepped you for this. If you go back to when Saturn was in Aquarius, from 2021 through early 2023, then that was getting you ready for this transit. Okay. And it's all about coming into your own authority. It's letting go of this idea that you're too weird for everybody else. You're an alien, you're a starseed, you're something not human. Okay. Regardless of where the soul doth originated, you're in a human physical body. Okay, you got human DNA, you're having a human experience, we're in a dense physical reality. Aquarius governs humanity. Okay? It's like, I don't know who started the aliens thing. Aquarius is the sign that rules humanity. Okay. Okay. Got it. All right. So if it's in your first house, it's deconstructing away that you're too much of a weirdo, or you're too different, or nobody wants to hear what you have to say. And also deconstructing away from the need to be right and isolating yourself in the rightness. Sometimes Aquarius can be as bad as Leo about that. Okay, like, well, I'm just not going to try because I don't fit in. That's ego, my friend. So it's deconstructing the ego and understanding you do have things to share with people. People are ready to listen to you. You've already had Saturn move through that first house. It got you ready. Okay. If Pluto's moving through your second house, you could have a change in fortune. And when it comes to your financial resources, when it comes to your self-worth, when it comes to your understanding, this is the beginning of some alchemical experiences. It doesn't mean you have to lose it all, but you do have to lose the things you're holding on to that are preventing you from doing better. Okay. And I'm not saying we all have, again, you know me, we don't all have to be billionaires. In fact, billionaires are a little excessive, but we don't have to struggle as hard, and we don't have to be as focused on our material well-being equaling our value. Okay. You may really enjoy technology. You might want to transform how you earn your living. You might actually gain materially from the Pluto transit, but you got to let go of the story of lack, of struggle, your social conditioning around money being bad, of, making the deal with the universe, like, let me win the lottery, I promise I'll give some to charity. Let go of that. Be willing to receive, because you're always going to be a generous person. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. The universe already knows, okay? So letting go of this social cultural conditioning around your security, your self-worth. Sometimes people lose when Pluto goes through that house, but it's mostly having to change your attitudes around money and show up for yourself in a different way. Change your attitudes around your value. You might have some social wounding around your self-worth. Maybe people told you you're too weird, whatever. It's time to let that go. Okay. If Pluto's moving through the third house, you're powering up your communications. You too need to let go of some ideals that are in your way. You might think people don't really want to hear you. Okay. Maybe you felt like you've been talking to the wind for a long time. Maybe you've felt like maybe you have to change how you communicate, like dumb yourself down, or feel like you need to conform. It's okay to let your freak flag fly. Lord. Or you could be like me with Pluto moving through your third house and fail to be able to speak. It's time to let the freak flag fly. It is time to let go of those ideas around maybe where you felt you were too far ahead. It's your time now. and it's time to step into that. You're not as far ahead as everybody else now. People are catching up, and it's time to own up to that and be open to people hearing what you have to say, read what you have to write, watch what you have to communicate, and really lean into your natural sense of curiosity. If Pluto's going through your 4th house, it does not mean everybody in your family is going to die. That is not what it means. It could be meaning that you are healing from family patterns, you're transforming generational trauma, especially caused by society. Okay. And if you've got an interesting family, and odds are if you have Aquarius on the 4th house, guys, then you probably have an interesting family. I always say everybody's family's weird and thinks their family's weird, but people with Aquarius on the 4th house cusp or the IC, they've got the receipts. Ask me how I know. But anyway, if Pluto's crossing that IC, then you're probably doing some big healing work. You may decide to move. You might need to move. It does not mean that everybody you love dies. It does not mean that. Nothing like that is that, one transit is not going to, like, one planet transiting is not indicative of anything life-changing like that. You'll be working on changing maybe how you live. You might be looking at sustainability practices. You might be looking at bringing in new roommates or wanting to live more collectively. Or if you have tried that and it didn't work out in the past, that is Oda. That is my granddog, and she has something to say. You might just be changing how you live. Maybe you're choosing to, like, move out, be on your own. Things could be changing, or you might move because of a job. It doesn't mean you're moving necessarily. It just could indicate that. Or you may be thinking about that. Maybe you're impacted drastically by the weather and you're like, wow, this is like the 3rd time. I think I'm done with this. So that could be it. If Pluto's moving through that 5th house, you are changing how you express yourself. If you've been risk adverse, if you've been afraid to speak up, if you felt like you were too weird, if you've bottled yourself up, it's time to let the genie out, my friends. It's time to let the genie out. If you've got kids, doesn't mean bad things are going to happen to them. It could be a little more intense because of the changes going on in the world, but it could also mean that there's transformation. They could be getting ready to go off to college. It could be a new life stage. It could be you're just expressing yourself different or taking new kinds of risks, letting go of rejection, healing through old wounds of rejection. Those are all part of it. It's time to work on your confidence in new ways. You might even find new hobbies or activities. If Pluto's moving through that 6th house, it does not mean you will automatically have some kind of mystery illness or be doomed. That is not what that means. I know the interwebs is awful for scaring people with that kind of dumb information that isn't necessarily true. You could decide to leave your job. Please don't rage quit. Make sure you apply for other things first. Okay, get a new job and then flip him the bird on the way out. Hi, Oda. Yeah, I know you have things to say. She's a mini Aussie. She's very vocal and she's demanding a lot of attention. Sorry. If you do, you might be having to do a lot more self-care if you've not been taking care of your mental health or just like your nervous system. Pluto will make sure that you take care of yourself. It doesn't mean you're going to get sick, but it's just going to be very obvious that you have to take care of yourself. But you could also power up in your day job. If you own your own company, the right people might come in. You're going to be learning how to transform how you do your daily life. Okay, that's it. It's a transformation to daily life. That can be a good thing. Pluto crossing your descendant or your DC, your seventh house. It doesn't mean you're going to get a divorce. It could mean your relationship grows in amazing ways, and not everybody with an Aquarius DC is in a relationship. It could mean you meet a soulmate. But remember, soulmates aren't always like the love of your life. It could be a nemesis. You never know. At least the seventh house is the house of known enemies, and it's not the house of unknown enemies. And that was a joke. Okay. It's true, but it was also a joke. All right. So it could be you have new contracts coming in, or that you have to renegotiate contracts. It's definitely a time for you to deconstruct your social conditioning around your idea of obligation, of partnerships. You're being forced to take a look at how you connect with within your close relationships, and also how you view yourself in that. Okay. If Pluto is ingressing into your 8th house, that's great. Pluto's at home in the 8th house. You're probably going to have some metaphysical experiences. You might, like, your intuition might be stronger. You might get interested in ancestor worship or cultural practices. You might have a deep spiritual awakening. It's very fascinating. If Pluto is going to be moving through your 8th house, you may become obsessed on a subject matter. You might be working through issues around being supported versus supporting yourself. Maybe you'll have to lean into community support. But at the same time, if you've maybe over-relied on support from other people, it's time for you to maybe take on some more autonomy. Or learn how to truly collaborate, not just receive, but ebb and flow, give and take, support other people, and finding the right groups to do that with. If Pluto is moving through your 9th house, then Pluto in Aquarius is gonna force you to change your ideals, and you're gonna have to really reform your belief systems. You might be very stubbornly attached to some ideas, beliefs. You might even feel like you're too quirky, or your education wasn't sufficient, or you might feel limited, but you're not. And Pluto's gonna say, hey, you've got inherent wisdom. You need to own that. Okay. If you've got Pluto moving through that 10th house, it doesn't mean you're going to lose your job. The 10th house is about power and authority, or actually authority. Pluto's about power. This could be a massive transformation in your career life. You could be elevated in your reputation. You might see some power struggles with authority figures that suck. I wouldn't get into it with them. I would let them do it. Just keep book on them, record everything. They'll probably bounce out of your life pretty fast. But if you do lose a job or don't get the promotion you were waiting for, just know that things are going to change rapidly. It might be the contrast you need to make decisions that take you into a whole new direction that's way more fulfilling. If Pluto's moving through that 11th house, you could see changes in your community. You could be connecting to people in different ways. You might see professional networks change up, or friend groups, not close friends like 3rd house friends, which feel more like siblings, or super best friends, which is like a 7th house relationship. They're ride and die. 11th house are more like your associates, your acquaintances. People might drop out of your life. If they do, don't feel hurt about it. These are people that you guys are evolving in different directions. New people will be showing up. These could be powerful connections. You may be part of community efforts to transform your community, support your community. You might be gaining new skills and to communicate, collaborate, and work together with other people in better and more effective ways. It's a really powerful transit. You might find yourself very spiritually inspired. And if Pluto's moving through the 12th house, again, this is a very comfortable transit for Pluto. This isn't a rock your world transit. This is more like eroding old social conditioning in your subconscious that keeps you stuck, limited, not reaching your full potential, and it opens the pathways for you to connect at a deeper level with your higher self, your soul self, the universe, God, however you want to describe it. You may have some very spiritual messages coming your way. Pay attention to that. Your dreams, write them down, keep a dream journal. Understand that the 12th house is the incubation space as well. So all of those inspirations you got while Pluto was moving through that 11th house, instead of looking at your losses, look at what you gained and let things start to transform and percolate in that 12th house. It is definitely a time to release insecurities, fears, and doubts and stop leaning into those things because they are a misuse of your imagination. If you want to know more about what can happen with the Pluto transit in Aquarius, you can head over to the link in the show notes for the Pluto and you recording of the seminar I did at the beginning of 2024. And that will walk you through how Pluto connecting with your planets also will impact you and more about Pluto through the houses. So what are you going to do on the 20th? Chill out, eat a moon pie, don't murder anybody. Enjoy the energy shift, but really pay attention to how your body feels. What kind of thoughts are you having? What kind of synchronicities, if any, are coming in? I would journal the day. I would record the information. If you're a patron, I'd love to see your observations in our general astrology chat thread. That would be great. I'd love to see how everybody else is experiencing it. I, for one, am looking forward to having more energy. More energy, more footwork, more energy. I would take the energy. I don't know about the footwork, but I'll take the energy. Yeah, guys, it's going to be wild and woolly. We could be in this together with Pluto in Aquarius. It reminds us that we're stronger together than we are on our own. Doesn't mean we have to be in groupthink or forced hegemony or that everybody has to like the same song or think the same way about anything, but that just recognizing our humanity and knowing that we do better together. And when one of us does better, the whole of us does better. And instead of being competitive and tearing each other down and having big ego fests, we are willing to be supportive of one another, to communicate, collaborate, play, and make a better future. And I'm here for that. That's why I created the Awake Space. That's why I hope you join us. And if you don't, that's fine too. We don't resonate with everybody, and that's all right. That's the other thing. See, that's why I'm saying it's not about forced hegemony. I preach a certain message here when it comes to astrology and how we can use the energy. Not everybody jives with that, and that's okay. I'm not here to convince anybody, evangelize to anybody, or try to convince anybody to think the same way. I'm here to speak a message that if it resonates with you, you're like, oh yeah, I really like that. I'd like to hang out there. That's all that it is. That's a great expression of Aquarius energy. And hopefully, if enough of us can reach a critical mass in that kind of attitude, we're not going to try to force people to eat the same way, dress the same way, think of the same aesthetics in the same way, and want everybody to look the same, feel the same, live the same. We can celebrate each other's differences and recognize our common threads. And that, my friends, is the end of the show. We'll just hold hands and get through this, all right? Okay. Next week, we're going to be talking about Venus entering Capricorn and the rest of the funky doodle astrology for January of 2024, including the full moon.